Hello everyone and welcome to our Crowdfund Support Live and Learn Introduction to Crowdfunding webinar. Today we're going to be teaching you all about crowdfunding and our Return to Play Active Together Fund from Sport England to help you crowdfund for your sport organisation. So just before we kick off, I've got a few housekeeping things to run through. So we've allowed 30 minutes for today's session, but it might take a bit more just depending on how many questions we get from the audience. If you do have a question, just feel free to put it in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we can answer these at the end of the session in a bit of a Q&A. We're working remotely at the moment, so if we do cut out, please just bear with us. And if your screen, for whatever reason, cuts out, just refresh the page and you should be able to get back in. And then finally, you can see us, but we can't see you. So don't worry, you can only see what's kind of like on your screen. So at the end of our session today, we're going to be sharing our Learn platform, which is our online course to give you all the tools that you need to crowdfund. And then today we're going to be hearing from Chloe, who is our dedicated sport coach, as well as someone who has crowdfunded successfully. So I'm just going to introduce Chloe if you're there.
I am here. Hi, Grace.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. So I'm going to hand over to Chloe, and Chloe is going to be teaching you all about crowdfunding.
Yeah, absolutely. So crowdfunding is a great way to raise both money and awareness for your organisation through engaging with the community. You'll set up a page on our online platform. You'll then promote that page to your community or crowd, and anyone that wants to support your organisation or maybe fancies one of your rewards will make a pledge to help you reach your goal. When setting up your page, first of all, do not worry if you're not too tech savvy. The system is really simple to use, and we're here to help you every step of the way as well. The first thing to bear in mind is your audience. When creating your page, you want it to be engaging for everyone in the community. So don't fall into the trap of simply making a page for your club members. They're already the most likely to support you. So you want to tempt someone outside your network to pledge as well. So start off with the information. You can separate it into nice big bold headings like you can see on this page here. So give us a little introduction about your organisation and the positive impact that you have on the wider community. So some clubs host annual community events, or maybe other organisations use your facilities. All these are reason for more than just your members to pledge on your campaign. This one sounds a bit obvious, but tell us why you're crowdfunding. And finally, be really transparent with how you plan to spend the money. As a potential supporter, I'm much more likely to pledge on a campaign if I can see the direct impact that my pledge will have for your club. Now you've got lots of information, you want to make it really engaging and visually appealing. And the best way to do that is with images and videos. So as you can see on this page here, at the top of the campaign is a video in which I suggest you just put 1 to 2 minutes summarizing the campaign. Have a person on there if possible, because it adds an element of personality to your campaign and gets across your message in a quick 1 to 2 minutes. You can add images throughout your campaign as well, again, to really add personality and bring that to life. And finally, let's talk about rewards. So here at Crowdfunder, we are the top rewards-based crowdfunding platform. That means that on top of your standard donation that you perhaps associate with traditional fundraising, you can also offer something in return for a pledge. It's a great way of encouraging more and higher pledges. The average pledged on a reward is £50. And if you compare that to the average donation of £20, it's a really big increase and really has value. So you can get really inventive with rewards and you can offer all sorts. And the best technique to have is to speak to local businesses to see what can be offered to be used as a reward. This page I've included a selection of different rewards we've seen recently on crowdfunding campaigns, and you'll see a wide range of prices and rewards that are targeted at a wide range of people as well. So you've got discounted fish and chips, you've got a week's bunny boarding, conversational Greek lessons. All these things are going to attract different people in your network and really broaden your reach beyond just those interested in your club. I always think if your page is tempting to someone who's not even interested in your sport, if you can get that person to pledge, that's the key to a really strong crowdfunding campaign. Another feature we have at Crowdfunder is the multiplier. So this allows people to fundraise on behalf of your campaign. So you'll set up your page as usual, you'll select the multiplier function, and this will then allow people to click start fundraising on your page, and they'll create a mini page that's connected to yours, and everything that they raise will then go towards your crowdfunding campaign as well. So this works really well if you've got different teams or squads that maybe want to compete to see who can raise the most, or maybe you've got some individuals that want to do something special for your campaign, like run a marathon or do a sponsored hula hoop. This is a great example of a project that used this function. Spencer Lacrosse Club actually had 44 fundraisers. So 44 individuals set up a mini campaign to help their club raise money to overcome the effects of the past year. So I'm sure many of you are aware that we have teamed up with Sport England on an initiative to help sports clubs overcome the financial effects of COVID-19. As part of this initiative, Sport England have released a whopping £2.5 million to help sports clubs through this time. So each club can receive up to a maximum of £10,000 towards their project target, or up to a maximum of 50% of their project target, whichever comes first. So this is how it works. You'll set up your page and then apply for extra funding. It's very important to make sure your page is ready before you apply, as your project page is what Sport England will be reviewing in addition to your application form. So make sure that it's got all those elements that we discussed earlier in my previous slides. So once you've applied, you'll hear back from Sport England pretty quickly. It's much quicker than a grant application that I'm sure you're used to doing. You then need to get to the first criteria of 25% of your project target from the required supporter numbers in order to activate that pledge onto your campaign. So I've mentioned required supporter numbers, and that depends on what your target is. So in the table that you can see there, it tells you how many supporters you need depending on what your target is. So let me give you an example. If I want to raise £10,000 for my sports club, I can see that I need at least 50 unique supporters in order to activate the pledge from Sport England. Once I've met those conditions, the extra funding will go onto my page and count towards my target, boosting me closer to that lovely target of mine of £10,000. I then need to make sure that I reach 100% of my target to secure the extra funding from Sport England. If you don't reach your target, you won't receive the extra funding. So it's really, really important to make sure you get all the way to 100%. Then once you've done that, you don't have to stop. You can keep crowdfunding until your campaign has ended. And we recommend adding a stretch target to avoid your campaign looking complete and give your crowd a reason to continue supporting you. Sport crowdfunds really, really well. That makes sense to me because crowdfunding is all about the community coming together and cheering for a common goal, which I think the same can be said about sport. This page is purely some examples of some of the sports that have crowdfunded with us successfully over the past year. You'll see absolutely everything on there, from gymnastics to scuba diving to speed skating and rugby. Whatever your sport, you can crowdfund for it. Grace, I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you, Chloe, so much for going through that. It was really, really helpful. And like I mentioned before, we are also joined by someone who has crowdfunded successfully. So today we've got Lindsay from the Aeronauts Trampoline Club. And Lindsay successfully raised £7,515 with 84 supporters. So if you do have any questions that you want to ask Lindsay, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we will have a Q&A. I've got a few questions that I want to ask Lindsay now. So Lindsay, if you're there.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us. So first things first, can you just tell us a little bit about your project?
Yeah, so basically, I have a trampoline club in town. It's been running since I was younger, so well over 30 years now. And I've been running the club for the last 18 years, I think. But unfortunately, due to COVID and restrictions, we weren't able to train for, I think it was the best part of, it was just over a year. And when it did come to returning, we needed funds to pay for the service charge. We had to have all the equipment serviced again, but obviously we hadn't trained, we hadn't had any money coming in. We needed all of the insurances, the coaches' insurances. We needed money for rent and wages, and basically our funds were depleted. So we needed to raise money somehow, and this is when we decided to do this.
Okay, great. So you've kind of talked about why you've crowdfunded. Could you tell me a little bit about maybe what you found worked best, and then maybe anything that you found a bit difficult whilst you were crowdfunding?
Yeah, so kind of having the children engaged with us was quite easy to do. We're kind of quite a friendly community club anyway. But then the bit I found the hardest initially was having other businesses to get involved, partly because I felt kind of a bit uncomfortable asking people, sort of going to people to ask for things, until I realised it could be mutually beneficial. So I sort of said to them, you know, we'll advertise your business, whether it was we had coffee shops donate, you know, sort of afternoon tea and things like that. And obviously as soon as they donated to us, we were advertising them on, we do a lot of advertising via Facebook, as well as on the crowdfunder as well. So it was kind of, yeah, that was the hard bit initially. And also getting them to do the, what's it called? You know, where they each do their own project. And it kind of filters into the crowdfunder. I forgot what you call it now, sort of that linked up. So they do their own little sponsored things, and getting it to link in. They were kind of a bit scared of the technology and how to do it and how to go about it. But once it was done, it made things so much easier, and they could physically see how much they'd raised.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of that you've kind of touched on two things that we often find when people are crowdfunding, that they worry about, or they struggle to find something as a reward. But as you said, a lot of the time when you do reach out to local businesses, you get a lot of support back from it.
Yeah.
And then again, the technology is something that that some people can also struggle with. But it's easy to use, isn't it? Like, it's easy to set crowdfunder up.
It was actually really easy once they'd done it, and once one person had done it, they kind of prompted the others, and it really wasn't difficult at all. I think everybody kind of panicked about it.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the time it's more stressful thinking about it than when you have to do it. So just to go back to the rewards, what was your approach when you were trying to get kind of businesses involved in that kind of thing? Yeah,
so we had kind of a standard message that we'd either text or Facebook message people. But what we actually started with was putting just a message on Facebook and people were sharing it. Now, usually I just find it so much easier face to face and going into places, but due to the current situation, we couldn't do that. So I found that a little bit more difficult to kind of approach people. So we actually did a lot of it through people knowing people. So once you look at the club, who I think we had maybe 80 to 100 members, I can't think now, they would always know somebody who knew somebody who had a business. And it was a lot of local businesses we got involved because they were maybe in similar situations themselves.
Sure. Okay, great. And then in terms of your club members, how did they get involved in the crowdfunder?
So I started off with something very basic and I said, do you all want to do something sponsored for the club? And I suggested walking maybe the equivalent of a mile a day. And a lot of them did that and they really enjoyed it. Then, for example, my niece, who was only 5 at the time, that was kind of a lot when you come home from school and by the time you get ready in bedtime. So she decided she'd read a tiny bit of a book every night, obviously just learning to read. So that was her way of contribution and then was sponsored to do that. We had somebody else who they were supposed to do, they'd mapped out, I think it was a 9-mile walk. And they mapped it out a little bit wrong and it was 14 and a half. So they did amazing. And that was like the full family got involved, plus a friend he had. So there was lots of things going on. So I organised kind of things that they could pick and choose what to join in. So we did a Zoom bingo one night. We did a car wash weekend where we kind of put it on our Facebook and said, right, if you kind of message me the area where you are and we can arrange for you to go to somebody or them to come to you and wash your car. And it was all just for donations, which worked out really well because people were just so generous. We did Smarty Tubes where I just went around and posted Smarty Tubes in people's doors and they ate the Smarties and then saved up the 20 pences in them. So I think you get £12.60 of 20 pences in your Smarties.
Love that.
Or football cards. A few of the parents actually donated football cards to us that bought online. And they were filling the cards for, I think it was £1 a square. And then the winner took 20 quid and, the club took. One of the guys is a football coach, so he kind of bullied his club and they were doing them for £5 each, so they did really well. And then the winner actually donated it to us. So we did a lot of things. Everybody was just so generous.
I love all those ideas. You've really thought of so many different ways to get the whole community involved. That's really great.
Yeah, it was all very friendly.
And then, so other than the financial benefit of crowdfunding, obviously raising all that money, what do you think are the other benefits of crowdfunding?
I think it's really brought us all together. We're a very close-knit club anyway, and we always have been. Very friendly, and we do interact a lot with the parents kind of outside of the club, and there's lots of chats going on, but it just really brought us together because I think a lot of the, particularly the teenagers, become quite down and quite low because they weren't seeing their friends and they weren't going out. And a lot of ours have really good friendship circles kind of through trampoline. And so we did walk and talk online. So we'd be walking on the spot and trying to get our steps up because a lot of them have sort of Fitbits or whatever. So we do that and we chatter away and we chat about, any kind of problems they might have, just sometimes you just need to talk to someone who's not your parent and nothing about anything major, just, kind of chatting about the stresses of school and things. And yeah, we just did anything fun, really. We, at periods of lockdown when it was a bit sort of quieter, we had meetups. One of the parents from the club is a manager at a doctor's surgery and they allowed us to go into the garden. So because of all the crowdfunder, we'd all been very close and just constantly in contact with each other. So I think it's improved our kind of sense of community even more. And lots of people who are nothing to do with the trampoline club have then become involved. And we've got a really long waiting list now, to be honest.
That's amazing. That's so exactly the kind of benefit that we talk about when crowdfunding, and the idea of crowdfunding is obviously to draw on a crowd, and you just seem to like so much support from your community. So that's exactly the kind of thing that we love to talk about. So I'm just going to ask Chloe back and see if we've got any audience questions. So I'm not sure we've got that many, but maybe Chloe, you could talk about, obviously because you are our sports coach, if there's any maybe advice that you would give or any FAQs that you kind of might anticipate for sports organisations crowdfunding.
Yeah, I think what Lindsay said is absolutely key. It's all about getting the whole community involved. I often speak with project owners who they take it all aboard themselves, and they don't think about this group of people around them that also want the club to do well. They, you know, everyone in your membership base can have some sort of impact as to how to make your campaign succeed. And what Lindsay did absolutely brilliantly was get everyone involved, whether it's a sponsored read, whether it's baking cakes, and the local businesses as well. I think it really goes to show how beneficial a campaign can be. And Lindsay, you mentioned that you've got a waiting list as long as your arm now for people wanting to join the club.
Huge, to the point where we will be putting on new sessions now. We're just waiting for some more hall time to put more classes on.
Amazing. It's so great to hear, because it's lovely to hear that not only have you raised all this money, but you've got the longer term effects of having all these new members as well, which is absolutely amazing. And then I guess one question for both of you guys would be, what would be like the one piece of advice that you'd give to someone about to start crowdfunding?
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
So my first piece of advice is do your research and have a look at some other pages. It's very easy to go all guns blazing, get really excited about it. But if you haven't looked at some other pages to get some inspiration, you might struggle to create a really engaging page. But you can go on the Active Together website. You can have a look through all the projects that have received extra funding from Sport England and get an idea for what works. You know, you can see how much each club has raised compared to their target. It's worth noting that Lindsay's target was £5,000, and she well exceeded that. And that was a result of a really strong campaign page and a really engaged community.
Amazing. Lindsay, do you have any advice for people crowdfunding?
Yeah, I think the only thing, if I'd have gone back over, I would have probably spoken to Chloe a little bit sooner, although I did then torture her halfway through. We got the email at the beginning saying, oh, you know, this is Chloe, this is, your crowdfunding coach, etc. And I kind of thought, oh, it's just a blanket email that everybody gets. And I didn't realise how kind of personalised it was. And then I kind of spoke to Chloe a lot. And Chloe, you helped me so much. I couldn't have got a fraction of that money without you. It was just constantly in your brains and you offering advice of what to do and how to go about it. And it was just brilliant. But I ended up just really enjoying doing the whole project. It was really good. So yeah, I'd definitely say kind of use the team as much as you can and use the resources.
Yeah, we are real people. We're not robots. So if you've got a question, don't be scared to contact us, because I
honestly thought it was going to be more kind of call centre where you just spoke to anybody. I didn't realise how personalised it was. And for that reason, I loved it even more. It sort of reminded me of the feel for our club, where it feels very friendly at your end and you're also approachable, and it just made a massive difference. So for that reason alone, I'd say definitely use Crowdfunder.
That's such great feedback. Thank you so much.
Bless you, Lindsay.
No, you've all been lovely, honestly.
So in terms of the questions, I think that's probably all we've got time for today. Lindsay, thank you so much. That's been really,
thank
really
you for having me, and thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And then Chloe, I'm just going to hand over to you just to talk through the next steps.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone has a better understanding of what crowdfunding is and how it might benefit your club. So as I say, the next step is to do your research. So have a look at those pages, check out our online guides, but also join our online learn platform. So this is the interactive course that gives you a little introduction to crowdfunding, and it takes you through all the tips of how to plan, create and run a successful crowdfunding campaign. There's quizzes and videos and all sorts of lovely bits on there, full of all the tips and tricks that you need to run a successful campaign. And if you do have any questions, I am available and here to help you along the way. My email address is chloe@crowdfunder.co.uk.
Amazing, thank you so much. So I think hopefully you guys will leave today's session kind of knowing more about crowdfunding. We will share all the links with you and a replay to today's session. So yeah, just once again, thank you both of you so much for today, and hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thanks everyone, bye.
Bye.
Bye.